Good evening. Since we are in the week before Pesach, next week at the end of the week we'll be celebrating Pesach. So tonight we're going to discuss a theme that is connected to the Pesach Dika Seder, as well as to the day of Yud Aleph Nissen next Wednesday in a week, the birthday of the Rebbe. I want to discuss tonight the part of the Seder we know as Koirich, Moitzi Matzah Morer Koirich, or better known as the sandwich or the wrap, the first Jewish wrap that we eat during the Seder, matzah together with morer, two pieces of matzah, and inside we have the morer. And there's a special nusach, there's a special recitation before we eat the sandwich. Kain asa Hillel bisman shebeis hamikdash hayakayim. So, or this is what Hillel did in the times of the Beis Hamikdash hayakoirich. Pesach matzah morer v'echlam b'yachad. The Hillel would wrap together Pesach, which is the lamb chops, the meat of the carbon Pesach of the Passover offering, which was either a sheep or a goat, and matzah and morer, and he would eat them together. Shenemer al matzah sumeroyim yechlu, since the pasuk says you should eat the meat of the carbon Pesach this night, roasted on fire together with matzah and morer, and then we eat our wrap. And the question, of course, is why is it that suddenly here we're explaining that Kain asa Hillel, this is what Hillel used to do. There are many mitzvahs and laws and rituals and traditions and customs that Jews do on Pesach and throughout the whole year. Never do we find that as an introduction, as a preface, before we do these customs, we should tell ourselves and tell the people around us who used to behave this way. When you put on tefillin, you don't say Kain asa Moshe Rabbeinu before you put on tefillin. Or Kain asa Rashi, or when you put on Rabbeinu Tam's Kain asa Rabbeinu Tam. And when you light Shabbos candles, you don't say Kain asa Sari Imenu, or any other Jewish woman or girl throughout the generations. Here, suddenly, we attribute it Kain asa Hillel. You should know that Hillel did it. Just because Hillel did it, we should do it? This is a second question. So Hillel did it. Why should I do it? Because Hillel did it. Everything that Hillel did, I must do. Elamai, you're going to tell me it's not that Hillel did it and that's why I should do it. Hillel did it because that's what the halacha dictates. If that's the case, why is it important to mention Hillel? If the halacha dictates to do this, so we eat the sandwich because this is what a Jew is supposed to do at the Seder. Why are we attributing it to Hillel? And the answer to this must introduce the concept of koirich as it's presented in the literature of halacha. So the Gemara in the 10th chapter of Masechta Pesachim, Arvei Pesachim, Pesachim Daf Kuf Tezayin, Amud Aleph, as well as the halachic authorities throughout the generations, and the Alter Rebbe and Shulchan Aruch of the Alter Rebbe, Shulchan Aruch Harav and Hilchos Pesach Siman Tov Ayin Hey, gives us a very elaborate presentation and summation of the discussion in halacha about koirich. And the summation of it, we have a fascinating presentation of why we do koirich. What does it symbolize in the Seder, how it evolved halachically. Following this, we can then come to discuss koirich from a psychological, emotional, spiritual, and personal dimension. Amar Rav, everybody knows Rav's statement in Masechta Pesachim in the 10th chapter that morer bisman hazem midirabanon matzah bisman hazem min haTorah, which means the obligation today to eat morer, to consume bitter herbs during the Seder, whether it's romaine lettuce or the horseradish, the chrein, or other forms of morer, is only rabbinic, it is not biblical. Why? Because the obligation in Chumash to eat morer at the Seder of Pesach is juxtaposed with the obligation to eat the meat of the Passover sacrifice, the carbon Pesach. Al matz v'achlu es habasar b'layla azet sliesh, al matzos umeroirim yoichlu. You should eat the meat of the Passover offering with matzah and morer. So the biblical obligation to eat morer is only applicable when you're also eating the carbon Pesach with it. But nowadays, when we have no Beis Hamikdash and no Passover offering, unfortunately, till Mashiach comes b'mheira b'yameinu mamish. Thus, there is no biblical obligation to eat maror according to Rav, and this is the halacha. Only a rabbinic one, zecher lemigdash. The rabbis, the sages, instituted that we should eat maror to commemorate the tradition and the mitzvah in the time of the Beis Hamikdash when there was a biblical obligation to eat maror. However, when it comes to matzah, matzah bisman hazeh min haTorah. The obligation to eat matzah Passover, the Seder night. This is a biblical obligation. The pasuk says to eat matzah with maror together with the carbon Pesach, but there is another pasuk. But erev toichlu matzos, eat matzahs on this night of Pesach. In other words, matzah has an autonomous and independent mitzvah and obligation, that there's a mitzvah to eat matzah independent of the other components, the maror and the carbon Pesach. Hence, even when there's no carbon Pesach, we're still obligated biblically to eat matzah. Step number one. So we have a distinction between matzah and maror. Matzah is biblical even today. Maror remains a rabbinic, not a biblical obligation. Step number two. In the time of the second Beis Hamikdash, there was an argument, a halachic dispute between Hillel HaZaken, Hillel the elder, and his colleagues, the other sages. Hillel interpreted the pasuk al matzos u'merorim yechlu literally, that you had to eat all three items simultaneously. The meat of the carbon Pesach, the matzah, and the maror had to be eaten together. How? A sandwich. You make a sandwich with lamb chops. Inside you have matzah and maror. You take a bite into the sandwich, so you took a bite into Pesach, matzah, maror. That is the meaning al matzah u'merorim yechlu. Literally, you should eat it on top of the matzah and the maror. The three items must be eaten together. The Chachamim disagree. They say you can eat them together, but you don't have to. Al matzos u'merorim yochlu, who in the singular indicates that each one can also be eaten individually and you will still fulfill the mitzvah. Yes, you can make a sandwich, but there's no need for it. So you can eat the meat of the Pesach, you can eat matzah, you can eat maror, each one independently, as long as they're all eaten in this meal. As long as all the three items are part of the Seder festival and feast of Pesach, you fulfilled the mitzvah. This is step two, the argument between Hillel and the Chachamim in the time of the Beis Hamikdash. Hillel lived around 40 years before the destruction of the second Beis Hamikdash. He was born in Babylonia. He came to Eretz Yisrael and he became the leader of the Sanhedrin, of the Jewish Supreme Court, the highest position of authority in the Jewish world. And Hillel argued this point with his chaverim, with his colleagues. Now we come to point three, and that is, today, if you eat matzah together with maror, if you take a piece of matzah and you put maror on it, and you take a bite and you eat it, according to all opinions, you will not fulfill the mitzvah of eating matzah. The biblical mitzvah of eating matzah you will not fulfill. Why? Zog the Gemara, because the tam ha-maror mevatel tam ha-matzah. The taste of the maror alters the taste of the matzah. The Torah says, eat matzah. Don't eat maror matzah. You change the ingredient. It's not anymore pure, pristine matzah. The mitzvah is to eat matzah. The mitzvah is not to eat an ingredient called maror matzah. True, even if you have maror, you can still taste the matzah. But the very fact is, you altered the state of the matzah and the taste of the matzah. So the taste of the maror alters the taste of the matzah, and therefore you do not fulfill the mitzvah of eating matzah. So now you ask a good question. How could you make a sandwich in the time of the Beis Hamikdash? According to Hillel, you had to make a sandwich. And even according to the rabbis, you were allowed to make a sandwich and eat matzah and maror together. On this, the Gemara tells us in Masechta Pesach, based on another Gemara, another Gemara in Masechta Zvachim, the Fayin Tes, the great Yesod that mitzvahs shall Torah einon mevatlei zu azu. Mitzvahs do not nullify each other. To quote the golden words of the Alter Rebbe, It's based on the Rashbam in Psachim there, Daf Kuf Tezayin, Daf Kuf Tesvav. I said Kuf Tezayin, Kuf Tesvav Amar Aleph. It's based on the Rashbam, but the Alter Rebbe elaborates and puts in his own few words. Mitzvahs of Torah and Mevatli Zuazu, mitzvahs of Torah do not nullify each other. Sheshkulin hein kiyachas, because they're identical. Shekulon kiyu mitzvahs of Shalakadosh Baruch Hu. All of them constitute the fulfillment of a mitzvah of Hashem. Which means, in other words, in the time of the Beis Hamikdash, since matzah was a biblical obligation, and maror is a biblical obligation, mitzvahs einon mevatloi zu ezu. The concept that the maror diminishes and alters the matzah, and therefore you're not eating matzah the way Hashem wanted you to eat matzah, is only true today when maror is not a mitzvah min ha-Torah. But at the time of the Beis Hamikdash, when both of them were mitzvahs, so the unifying component that they're both mitzvahs removes the concept of bittul. We will not say that the maror alters the state of the matzah. What does this mean? So perhaps we can explain it in these words. It's true, the taste of maror is different than the taste of matzah. And if I mix maror with matzah and I eat them together, I'm not eating pristine matzah. I'm not eating pure matzah. I'm eating maror matzah. When is this true, says the Gemara? Only when I'm eating maror, when I'm eating romaine lettuce, when I'm eating chrein, horseradish, and I'm trying to eat matzah. Matzah is unleavened bread. This is romaine lettuce. The romaine lettuce is confusing the matzah. But when the romaine lettuce is not romaine lettuce, when the horseradish is not horseradish, it's a mitzvah. It's kiyu mitzvah shlakadosh baruch hu. It's a mitzvah's maror. This is also what matzah is. Matzah is a mitzvah. So the maror doesn't oppose and hence doesn't diminish the matzah. The maror doesn't weaken the matzah because both of them have a unifying theme, which is the fulfillment of the mitzvah of Hashem. So if I were to ask the matzah, what do you want with you in my mouth? You're going into my mouth now. What would you like to accompany you in my mouth? Would you like maror? The matzah will say, sure. Because the matzah is not bread. Matzah is not unleavened bread. The gedder of the matzah is a mitzvah. And the gedder of the maror is a mitzvah. The matzah is a mitzvah. The maror is a mitzvah. So they essentially constitute one essence. So to speak, the personality, if I can express myself psychologically, in halachic terminology, the personality of the matzah is not bread. It's not unleavened bread. The personality that the matzah assumes at the Seder meal is a mitzvah. The personality of the romaine lettuce is not romaine lettuce. The personality of the romaine lettuce is a mitzvah. It's a mitzvah's maror. Mitzvahs einam mevatli zu ezu because they constitute one. This is only true in the time of the Beis Hamikdash, when matzah was a biblical commandment and maror was a biblical commandment. But today, maror is not a mitzvah anymore. It's only a rabbinic mitzvah, but biblically it's not a mitzvah. So now when I eat matzah together with maror, now the maror alters the matzah. Now the maror is not a mitzvah. Now the maror is lettuce. Now the maror is chrein. The maror alters the matzah. The maror alters the matzah. I wasn't mekayim the mitzvah of matzah. It's a mitzvah midrabanan, but biblically it's not a mitzvah. Thus today, to fulfill the mitzvah of matzah, according to all opinions, you must eat matzah independently. That's matzah. What about the maror? According to Hillel, the maror can't be eaten independently. Why? Because the reason we eat maror today is because the rabbis obligated us to eat maror, zeichel hamikdash. In the time of the Beis Hamikdash, how would you eat maror according to Hillel? Together with Pesach and together with matzah. So if you eat maror independently today, according to Hillel, you did not fulfill the mitzvah of maror midrabanan. The mitzvah is to eat maror zeichel hamikdash. So the institution to eat maror was maror that's similar to the Beis Hamikdash type of maror, which was together with matzah. So Hillel says you have to eat maror together with matzah. You need a sandwich, not for the sake of the matzah, for the sake of the maror. The chaloi chiyuv. Achilas matzah today is only on matzah itself. But the chiyuv to eat maror is together with matzah. So you need to eat maror with matzah, not for the sake of fulfilling the mitzvah of matzah, but for the sake of fulfilling the mitzvah of maror. This is Hillel. But according to his colleagues, that even in the time of the Beis Hamikdash, there was no need to eat maror together with matzah. So the obligation to eat maror today is not to eat it together with matzah. So if you eat today, according to the Rabbanah, if you eat today, Pesach, maror together with matzah, did you fulfill the mitzvah of maror? You did not. Why? Because the matzah you're eating in the sandwich is voluntary. The mitzvah of matzah you already fulfilled on its own. Now when you eat a sandwich, matzah and maror, the matzah is voluntary. If the matzah is voluntary, the matzah alters the taste of the maror. Now you're not fulfilling the mitzvah of maror. The mitzvah is to eat maror, and you're eating matzah maror. So according to Hillel, you can't fulfill maror without matzah. According to the rabbis, you can't fulfill maror with matzah. Now, in most halachic disputes in the time of the Beis Hamikdash, Bezdin in the court would come together, they would make a vote, and as the pasuk says, Achri Rabbim La'atos, we follow the majority. But there were those disputes that were never resolved. And this was one of the disputes that was never resolved in Bezdin. So Hillel had his perspective, and the rabbis had their perspective, and there was never a verdict that was given. Zog the Gemara in Pesachim Kuf Tesvav, therefore we follow all opinions. Now you will appreciate the structure of the Seder. We make hamoitzi lechem in aretz, we make a bracha al achilas matzah, and what do? We eat matzah independently, and when you eat that matzah independently without anything else, you are fulfilling the mitzvah of matzah according to all opinions, which means, in other words, that when you eat matzah at this Seder, the independent matzah, you should eat it with extra passion and enthusiasm, knowing that right now you are doing an act which will allow you to fulfill the mitzvah of eating matzah on Pesach, the biblical mitzvah according to all opinions in the Jewish world, which is no small feat. When you finish eating the matzah, now you have to eat the maror independently. You make a bracha al achilas maror, and now you fulfill the mitzvah of maror only according to the rabbis, not according to Hillel. Matzah you fulfilled according to everybody. Maror only according to the Chachamim. You did now the mitzvah of maror zeichel hamikdash. According to Hillel, however, we're still left with a problem. Matzah I fulfilled, maror I never fulfilled. I wasn't becoming the mitzvah of maror. So now I do a wrap, we do a sandwich, in which we combine matzah and maror, and we eat it, and now we fulfill the mitzvah of maror even according to Hillel, because we did the maror zeichel hamikdash just as it was in the Beis Hamikdash when there was a wrap, obviously the best of our ability, because we can't have the lamb chops in the wrap today. So we don't have the meat. So we get a sandwich, right? Hillel's sandwich was a delicious sandwich. It was a good Jewish sandwich. There was beef inside, there were lamb chops, and there was matzah, and there was lettuce. Amachaya, that's a sandwich. Today, there's no beef in the sandwich. It's matzah and maror. But it's still zeichel hamikdash, because in the Beis Hamikdash, at least there was a sandwich. And this is the structure of the Seder in every Jewish home around the world, according to the Halacha in Gemara, quoted in the Poskim and in Shulchan Aruch. Now, let's go over to the next step on the deeper level, because the question is, why did the Hashgacha, why did Providence dictate that this issue there was no Halacha? They did not resolve the dispute between Hillel and his colleagues, and there was no verdict given. Why? And also, why is it that even if we're trying to fulfill the halacha according to Hillel, that we have to explain what we are doing? When we eat the wrap, we say, Keinos Hillel, this is what Hillel used to do. Sometimes we do different things in order to cover different opinions. But if somebody wants to know the reason, let them go study. Here, before we actually follow Hillel's perspective, we explain to the Seder table. We explain to ourselves and to our friends and to our family the halachic context. Why is it so important here? Which brings us to explaining this concept spiritually and emotionally within the Avodah, within the personal work of a person. Let's preface it with the pasuk of Shlomo HaMelech in Mishlei. Shloisha eila niflu mimenu mimeni v'arba lo yadaitim. 3 things are wondrous for me, and 4 I do not know. Sagt der Medrash Rabbah in Parshas Emor, 3 things are wondrous for me. Elu Pesach Matzah Mar. Arba lo yedaitim, elu arba minim shabalulav. The 3 things I don't know are Pesach Matzah Mar. The 4 things that I am ignorant about are the 4 species of sukkahs, the lulav and the esrig and the hadus and the arav. What does this mean? Why is Pesach Matzah Mar so mysterious that Shlomo HaMelech says, Shloisha eila niflu mimeni? And why are the 4 species of sukkahs so mystical that Shlomo HaMelech says, Arba lo yedaitim? What is the meaning of this? So there are many explanations, and tonight I present to you one explanation. And this has to do with the fact that Pesach, Matzah, and Maror, just like Lulav, Esrog, Hadas, and Arava, are not just 3 or 4 physical items of food or fruits or plants, but like every physical element in the world, they represent also 4 human profiles, 4 types of Jews, 4 types of human beings. You have the Esrog Jew and the Lulav Jew and the Hadas Jew and the Arava Jew, known in the Medrash as different categories of Jews. And you have, and that's our discussion tonight, the Pesach Jew and the Matzah Jew and the Maror Jew. Pesach, of course, is a beef-like Jew. Matzah is a regular Jew, and Maror is a bitter Jew. The Pesach Jew is the Jew who is a carbon sliesh, a person who's dedicated heart and soul as a sacrifice to Hashem, filled with fire. It's not just cooked on the fire, it's tzliesh, it's roasted on fire, it comes in direct contact with fire. This is a Jew who's filled with passion and fire and warmth and enthusiasm. And just like a carbon, he's a reach nichayach, or she is a reach nichayach, a delightful aroma and fragrance to God. And just like tzliesh has a special smell, a special aroma, it's a royal food, it's a geschmacke food, it's an aristocratic food. This represents the Jew who is filled with delight and geschmack and energy and passion and enthusiasm. There is a richness to his or her daily service of Hashem. And then we have the Matzah Jew. Matzah is a bland food. It's not an exceptional food. People don't usually serve matzah as the center of their smorgasbords or their receptions or their weddings or their chasanas. I don't have to tell you. True, by the Seder, everybody is saying that matzah this year is delicious. It's delicious, but why don't you serve it as the main course at your son's bar mitzvah next week? Because it's not that delicious. Matzah is not it's not an exceptional food. It's also not bitter and horrible. It's bland. So this we'll call the regular Jew. The Jew who has great days, but also has bland days. Sometimes matzah is delicious. Sometimes matzah has an interesting taste, but sometimes matzah is considered bland. This is the Jew who is more regular, life is more routine, doesn't have that passion of the Pesach. And then you have Maror. Maror is the bitter Jew. Maror is the Jew who has frustration and resentment and anger, who has not made peace with himself or herself, has not made peace with God. 3 types of people. You could maybe categorize them in the famous categories of the tzaddik and the Beinoni and the Rasha. The tzaddik, the superhuman being, the carbon Pesach, who's a pure offering to God. The Beinoni, who is the Jew who has great moments, but who also has very monotonous moments. Moments where there's an absence of inspiration or excitement. And then you have the Rasha, the weak person, as the Alter Rebbe explains in Tanya, who experiences not just struggles and demons and skeletons, but who falls prey to them. The bitter elements of his or her Yetzer Hara and animal soul creep in to their daily behavior. These are the 3 types of Jews, and of course these 3 categories are just paradigms which can be divided further into many, many categories. The Pesach is an umbrella figure, and the Matzah is an umbrella figure, and the Maror is an umbrella figure. Each of these 3 types of Jews comes to the Seder table. And each of them experiences liberation in his or her own way. The Pesach Jew must liberate himself, and the Matzah Jew ought to liberate himself, and even the Maror Jew has the power to liberate himself on the Pesach night. But 3 roads diverge on the night of Pesach. 3 roads towards liberation. There's the Pesach road and Matzah road and Maror road. This is the opinion of the rabbis. Comes Hillel and says, no. If you want to be set free on the night of Pesach, it's not enough that you find your own liberation. You must integrate yourself. You must connect in a very real and authentic way with the other two categories of human beings. As long as you will remain in your own orbit or cocoon, as elevated as that may be, you will not experience freedom. It's only in the integration and the synthesis of Pesach, Matzah, Maror, where they come together. That is where and when each of them can be set free. This was Hillel's great idea. Why Hillel? We know the Gemara says often about Hillel that he was exceptionally unique. The Gemara in Shabbos, there's the whole story about the man who tried to get Hillel angry Friday afternoon when he kept on disturbing him from his bath. And Hillel kept on coming out and answering him all of his ridiculous questions till he tells Hillel, I lost a bet. I made a bet with somebody that if I can get you angry, I'll get a large sum of money. And Hillel said, it's worth it for you to lose 400 zuz and another time 400 zuz. But that Hillel should not get angry. The Gemara tells the story in Masechta Shabbos about all the potential converts who came to Shammai and asked all of these ridiculous questions and made these weird stipulations about conversion, and Shammai chased them away. One of them wanted to convert with the condition he becomes a Kohen Gadol. One of them wanted to convert and he wanted the whole Torah to be taught to him while he's standing on one leg. One of them wanted to convert, not learn Torah Shabbat. Shammai expelled them. Hillel embraced them. Hillel responded to each of them. The Gemara says, Lo olam yeh adam anvesum ki Hillel. You should always be humble like Hillel. What was it about Hillel? Hillel is the man who says in Pirkei Avos, Havei mitalmid of shalarin, oyev shalom v'roidev shalom. Pursue peace, love peace. Hillel, in other words, was a human being who had the unique capacity to be able to build bridges between people and to be able to embrace in his soul and in his heart Jews and human beings from divergent perspectives and from different paths. Hillel had what the Alter Rebbe, there's a mimer from the Alter Rebbe about Hillel in Maimonides Admir Azaken, and he says Hillel was blessed with Archavas Hadas, with a tremendous mind that gives space, not just for one position, but for many diverse and paradoxical positions. Which means in life, often, I may disagree with another human being, but I have to be able to have the ability to understand where he's coming from or where she's coming from, to appreciate their perspective, to study their paradigm, to understand what is behind their question, not just listen to the question and expel them and judge them and disregard them, to understand the soul that is behind this opinion, even if I may disagree with the opinion. Sometimes I have to be open to understand that truth may be in the other person's mind and not in my mind, or one question may have two legitimate answers that are different. But sometimes I may really believe that this person is wrong and I may be right. Still, I can appreciate and tolerate where they're coming from, understand how they got there, what is behind their questions. Hillel heard the questions of the converts. He didn't only answer the question, he answered the person. What is behind the question? What is maybe going wrong? What may be where this person has a distorted vision which is enabling him to articulate his questions this way, but you have to study it deeper. This was what Hillel represented. It's of course reflected in maybe one of the most famous arguments in Masechta Ksuvos, Daf Yud Zayin, Keitzad Meraktim Lifnei HaKala. How do you dance in front of a kala? Beis Shammai says each kala must be praised according to her own virtues. Beis Hillel says no, every kala say the same generic line. She's beautiful and charming. So Shammai says, what if she's not? What if this bride is not beautiful and charming? Torah said you shouldn't lie. So Hillel said, oh, if your friend goes shopping and buys something and you don't like it, should you say it's nice or should you say it's ugly? One of the Mefarshim says it means if there's no return policy. Certainly you should say it's nice. That's the end of the argument. L'chayda doesn't make sense. Beis Shammai says, Torah says you're not allowed to lie. So what's Beis Hillel's answer? Everybody lies. That's an answer. So the Rebbe once explained in the Farbrengen of Chafov, Tavshim Lamed Aleph, Chafov 1971, parts of it, printed in Lekutei Sichos, Chelik Tezayin Truma, he explained, Hillel was not advocating or giving permission, Chalil v'chas, to lie, midvar sheker, tirchuk, lying is repulsive, it's abominable. Hillel was saying something else. Hillel was telling Shammai, you have to look at things from a deeper perspective. You came to somebody's wedding. You look at the kala, you may have your opinion about the kala. But here is a groom. Does he believe that this Kala is Nava Chasuda? Does he believe that this woman is the most beautiful and charming woman in the world? Certainly he's marrying her. So for a few hours, remove your glasses and put on his glasses. See the world from his perspective. And when you say Kala Nava Chasuda, you're not lying, you're saying the truth. This was Hillel, and therefore even Shlomo HaMelech says, Shloisha Eila Niflu Mimeni V'Arba'ah Lo Yadaitim. Even Shlomo HaMelech did not know how to integrate Jews. How do you really connect with a Marer Jew without compromising your Yiddishkeit? How do you really love and connect and respect and relate to a Marer Jew without denying your commitment to Yerushalayim? Shlomo HaMelech says, Niflu Mimeni V'Arba'ah Lo Yadaitim. It's a pella, it's a wonder of wonders, but Hillel did it. Hillel insisted that you have to sandwich the Pesach Matzah in order to experience liberation, and the Hashgacha had it that the halacha was never resolved like the Chachamim until today. In our Seder, we integrate the perspective of Hillel to create a sandwich between the Matzah and the Maror, and we say Keinos Hillel. Because the Jew sitting by the Seder might say, how can I really connect with this other Jew? So we tell him, Keinos Hillel. Hillel did it. And Hillel did it in the time of the Beis Hamikdash when you had Pesach, and you had Matzah, and you had Maror, and he still made one sandwich. Certainly now when we don't even have Pesach personalities. We have Matzah and we have Maror. You can certainly create a sandwich, al Matzah Samarodim Yechlu, and be set free. And perhaps it's extremely significant that a few days before the Seder we celebrated Aleph Nisan, the Rebbe's birthday. And the Rebbe embodied the Hillelian model of leadership, always insisting that if you want to be set free in your own spiritual and psychological and emotional life, you must be committed to the mitzvah of koyrech. You must be committed to building bridges, to creating integration and unity between all types of human beings and all types of Jews. Pesach Matzah Maror, by always remembering the Kala Nova Chasuda, that Hashem chose every Jew as his Kala. If the Chassan chose the Jew as his Kala, you may look at the Jew and not see Nova Chasuda, but think about the Chassan and remember it's Kala Nova Chasuda. This is how the Rebbe then explained the Shitta of Beis Hillel, and that's Fabrengen. And even those elements where you disagree with this Jew, you can appreciate and be sensitive to his nisyonis, to her challenges, to his or her upbringing, to their struggles, to their questions, to their dilemmas, to their background, and hence be able to create space for their position, space for their perspective, while remembering that your objective is Oyev Shalom, V'Roidev Shalom, U'Mekarvon L'Torah, bring them to Torah. So at every Seder we say, Keinos Hillel Bizman Beis Hamikdash Hayakayim. He understood the secret of the sandwich, that the Pesach, Matzah, and Maror together must be liberated and must be set free for each of us to experience an authentic Zman Chiruseinu. Have a wonderful night.